Hello everyone. I'm bringing you today a bit of a casting of some Arena team games that I played recently. So this is one I actually had a couple of months ago, and I just liked the way this game turned out and I wanted to cast over it. So this is a 4v4 Arena team game, and I'm just going to be going over the teams and everyone's civs. So first off, in the pocket, for my team, we have me in the gray playing as the Persians. Persians by themselves are kind of considered a bad Arena civilization for 1v1, but if it's a team game like this and you're a pocket, they're pretty damn decent. They've got a great economy, and they've got a lot of options for the late game. My flank, in the orange, is Umbrella playing as the Turks. He'll be trying for a fast Imperial Age this game. Bit of a risky strategy, but it could definitely pay off. The other pocket, in the purple, we have Hugh Hui playing as the Britons. I would say they're not as good in the pocket as they are on flank, potentially, just because their late game doesn't have a whole lot of power. Especially not compared to a civ like mine, the Persians. But they can do their job. They have a good boom, and their archers are pretty decent. The archers are pretty solid. The last person on my team, on the opposite flank, we have AoE2 Arena in the blue playing as the Italians. This is a.k.a. GPN, MrGPN. He's probably the highest rated player in this entire team game. It's about 2K2, 2K3 for HD, and he's also about 1.8. He's about like a 1.8K Vubu player as well. Italians, I mean, I consider them to be a decent civilization, but GPN himself just doesn't seem to like them very much. He considers them like a jack-of-all-trades type of civilization that doesn't do a whole lot very well. That being said, his favorite strategy when he's on flank, and he has a good monk civ like the Italians, is fasted monk Treb. That involves building a castle, getting up to Castle Age a little bit later, putting down a castle, getting up to Imperial Age right away, putting down some monasteries for monks and techs, and just you get a massive power spike at that point in the game. You can hopefully kill your opponent like that. So as for the other team, we'll start with GPN's enemy flank. In the green, we have Rainbow 7 playing as the Burmese. Very, very strong flank civ, and honestly, I think they're good in any position, honestly, because in the flank they have their great monks, they have the Arambai, their unique unit, and in the pocket they have access to battle elephants, the second best battle elephants in the game, actually. So they really can do a good job on any position, I feel. In his pocket, we have Slavs, Launch in the yellow playing as the Slavs. Extremely, extremely strong civilization. Once again, serviceable on flank, but I think they definitely shine in the pocket position just because their boom is insane, and so is their late game. Druzhna infantry and siege is a force to be reckoned with. The other pocket, in the cyan, playing as Hannibal, playing as the Magyars. Magyars are definitely a decent pocket civilization. Not the best, but they can certainly do their job because they have full access to fully upgraded paladins as well as heavy cav archers with recurve bow, both of which are extremely strong late game options. And finally, in the red, we have Money in the Bank playing as the Spanish. Once again, a civ that can really shine in either flank or pocket. Flank, you have the Conquistadors, and you also have the Spanish being one of only 3 civilizations in the game that have access to the full monk tech tree. So you have a lot of potential for aggressive play as a Spanish on the flank. But even in the pocket, they have access to stuff like paladins, bombard towers, and things like that, so they can definitely do their job. So overall, I mean, as far as the civilizations are concerned, I kind of like our opposing teams better. Just trying to get up our Dark Ages up and running. You can see me here, I'm just trying to learn some deer. I had a really nice deer patch this game. They were inside, and I had 4 deer as well to boot. I have a bit of trouble balancing my economy around like 4 deer. Usually I end up underestimating the number of farms I need because, well, as the pocket, you want to be doing a 4 TC boom, which is the strategy I went for. It's a very powerful boom, and, you know, Persians being a very strong booming civilization. Just try to do that, get into some useful units. At the time I was kind of asking GPN, like, which units I should go for, because we're talking about Persians, they're all about cavalry. They have the paladins, and they have the camels. So I was just wondering which sorry, not civilization. I was wondering which unit choice would have been better. GPA just pointed out I should explore a bit and find out for myself. And so that's what I kind of ended up doing. Brought my scout out. Started scouting out our side. And then later on I would find out that enemy flank is Spanish, enemy pocket is Magyar, so very, very cavalry heavy. So that's when I decided on camels. GPN kind of just helping me confirm that idea as well. Just mass heavy camels, and I'll find out soon that that was the right call, in fact. GPN just doing his deer patches was nowhere near as good as mine. I think they were outside actually, and he had to lure them in. But he's got his deer. For a fast tip monk Treb build, you need at least 3. And really, most builds that involve deer, you'd want to build them around 3, just because, well, you're not going to have 4 deer all the time. It can be randomly 3 or 4. See, he's got 3 onto stone. The last 4 villages that you make when you're doing this strategy go on to gold. He's very, very scared of this main gold on the outside of his base because it's very, very far forward, vulnerable to any kind of aggression, so he decided to take this one in the back. QA's base is definitely a lot nicer. He has a back gold as well as a back stone. Well, back in a sense that it's away from his opponent, even though it's close up against the walls. The only downside is this gold is kind of hard to saturate because it's smushed up against the tree line. So everyone just making their way up to the feudal age. Most everyone seems to be luring in their deer. Looks like Hannibal decided to lure in his deer just to the mill. There are outside deer as well. Red, he's gonna castle drop. He's also luring in his deer closer to his mill. He's placing it forward, making some conks and trying to pressure that way. Me personally, I don't like to work with conquistadors on Arena personally, just because they have 3 less range than Monk, and they're so expensive that if they get converted, it just blows a hole in your economy. I much prefer to play with this civilization's unique unit, the Turks, Umbrella Civ, because Janissaries only have 1 less range than a Monk. They can take him out a lot easier. I think Monks are definitely a lot less of a threat to Janissaries compared to Conquistadors. Assault fast castling. Putting down my market in Blacksmith. Banking up a lot of resources, actually. Especially wood. That's going to be very nice for a 4TC boom. I did slightly miscalculate here. I was slightly short on food. Just a few force drop-offs was enough to sort that out, though. Main talking point right now, I think, is GPN. Because with his market and blacksmith coming down at around 30 population, Rainbow 7 doesn't really seem to expect a thing. All he knows is that he wants to put a castle forward and do some aggression. I don't know much about... For most of these players, I actually don't know a whole lot about them, aside from AoE2 Arena GPN. He's just a very solid 1.8k Voobly player, and 2k3 here on HD. And, Rainbow 7, although some of my buddies in a Discord channel, they say that he loves to drop castles, so... If I ever find myself playing in a team game against him, Probably the best strategy is like early expos and just going out and defending against it. If he tries to drop a castle, I just deny it and then I just end the game there. This pocket also booming up a storm. He has an unusually large amount of villagers on his forage bushes. I can only assume that means he screwed up his build at some point. Yep, he did. It's minute 15. Hope, preferably for a 4 TC boom, you should be up on 28 plus 2, which would put you around 1540. I believe it's 1540 as an ideal time. So you should have been up right about now. But that wasn't the case. He did something to his build, and I don't know what it was. Maybe he just overestimated the slot farms, because they do have that faster farming bonus. So, other side is reasonably uneventful at the moment, so I'm just going to be focusing on this side. Rainbow 7, he's going to be looking to drop his castle. And for that matter, so will GPN. Looks like he kind of scuffed his build as well. 28 plus 2 again, 1540 should be the ideal time. He's about a minute late. That's very, very bad when you're trying to deal with someone who is doing fast stint monk Treb. Well, he first is going to drop a siege workshop. He's going to try and get siege out to... Oh, I didn't notice this when I was looking over it last time. It looks like what he tried to do was a siege tower hop into dropping a castle. This is what we like to call a terror castle drop. Terror as in John Slow. But he cancels it, and he opts for 2 mangonels instead opting to build the castle outside. It's a full-on castle war right now. Hui coming in with his scout to try and deny this, but there's too many villagers. He's not going to be able to deny it with 1 scout. In an ideal world, as I said, I mean, Italian's great archer civ, so if he had even done like a 1-range expos, he could have denied this very well and ended Rainbow 7 right there. But his mind was set on... But GPN's mind was set on Fast and Monk Treb, so... There you go. On the other side, Money in the Bank has dropped a castle up Umbrella's grill. Umbrella forced to put out some quick walls. He's going to try and defend with a monastery for the time being, as well as a siege workshop. He's going to try and get up to Imperial Age as fast as possible, putting down some archery ranges to try and get up hand cannoneers. Turks, of course, get that free chemistry upgrade. Extremely strong attack, an extremely strong bonus. That instant access to bombard cannons, you can try and take down his castles right away. It's going to be tricky with these conquistadors that Money in the Bank is making right now. It's got to be very careful. Don't want to be losing your bombard cannons to these, they're very expensive. Meanwhile, I'm just peacefully booming back at home. I have 3 TCs so far. I'm going up to my 4th one right now. I should have built this one with at least like twice this number of villagers, but hindsight is 20/20. All things considered, this was kind of an anemic boom, just because I felt my food count was a little pathetic for like the first 3 or 4 minutes of my boom. I was kind of struggling to do it. I think at some point I ended up having to use the market just to try and get it, just to try and balance my eco a bit, so I wouldn't have TC idle time. Just getting a hand card at minute 20 at 40 at minute 21 about 48 population. Early hand cards are very nice for 4 TC booms just because it's a really nice boost to your economy. And sometimes, I haven't been 4 TC booming for very long, so sometimes I end up forgetting about this. I grab wheelbarrow, but I end up forgetting about hand cart. Thankfully, that wasn't the case this game. So meanwhile, back at GPN's point of view. Back at GPN's point of view, he is almost to Imperial Age, and he has his 3 monasteries out. The castle plus 2-3 monasteries is seen as pretty standard for fast stint monk Treb kind of play. Be hitting Imperial Age, and now he has access to Trebs. This castle will be toast. Rainbow 7, though, back at home, he's trying to boom up on 3 TCs. Burmese, of course, have a very nice time booming because they get that those free wood ups, free wood upgrades. He's able to slam down farms and try to get up his economy before he loses ground here, hopefully. He's making some Arambai, and this is not the last you'll see of these Arambai. We'll find, our side is going to find they're very annoying. And you'll see just how annoying they are a little bit later. That's about all he's going to be able to make. Trebuchet now pressuring his castle. GPN's massing up his monks, spamming the monk technologies like there's no tomorrow right now. Let's see what he has so far. He always stresses the importance of block printing when you're doing the strategy. Redemption is something you can delay. It's something you can delay, especially if you're going to be facing siege later on, or if you want to be converting buildings. Like, let's say your opponent tried doing a building wall to try and defend himself. You can use this to bust through them, convert the buildings and bust through them. They're saying they need block printing at the moment. And he'll be grabbing illumination now. Essentially, these are all the cheap monk upgrades. It's going to be able to convert so much more frequently now that illumination is done. Rainbow 7 coming in to try and... coming forward to try and repair his castle. Eventually, this thing will go down. There's going to be too many trebuchets attacking at some point for him to be able to out-repair the damage that this castle is taking. Rainbow 7 trying to take the initiative to pressure Hugh Hui. Busted through his walls, but his micro does not seem to be on point. Lost one Arambai. Hugh Hui, though, I think might be overreacting to this. He's opting to make skirmishers instead of some like monks to take care of the Arambai. I think that might be a mistake. Of course, Britons have the cheaper TCs. In the grand scheme of things, I don't think this will set him back a whole lot. Hugh Hui was actually the lowest rated player in this game, I think. In this team game. He was like 18, just like low 1800 HD. But considering that, I think he did a decent job, all things considered. So I say in the chat that I'm up. This is a slightly scuffed boom, but it was good enough, all things considered. I'm just trying to get up my buildings necessary. Like I said, I was opting to go for camels to try and support my ally. Support Umbrella. He's facing quite a bit of pressure from these conquistadors, although he did do a decent job walling up. He's got a decent number of hand cannons out. Got some bombard cannons out. Ooh, this one took a lot of damage. Luckily, he was able to keep it alive, although I would repair that personally. And you know when I said the leftover Arambai were being annoying? Well, this is how. I wanted to build these stables forward to try and improve to make the reinforcement lines a little bit better for me. But unfortunately, these Arambai just did not allow me to do that. So I was forced to build them inside. Took a couple of ill losses, but it's a bit of a mistake on my part, idling my TCs a little bit. It's a little bit of a habit of mine when I'm finished booming. I think I'm just through the gate. Just made it. And then I just forget about creating more villagers. But I do end up creating more, so just was forced to build my stables here. I was gonna be kind of late because preferably I would have had those stables up by now and researching all the technologies I needed. But I was at least able to grab the blacksmith upgrades in the meantime, scale barding armor, chain barding, later plate barding as well. GPN over here is making Rainbow 7's life miserable right now. Forwarding a siege workshop. And I can only assume that he'll be grabbing redemption pretty soon. Theocracy, or does he already have it? Yeah, he does. He can start converting up a storm right now. And that's what he's going to be doing. First, he's going to try and house the heck out of Rainbow 7 by converting these houses. And you'll find that Rainbow 7 is going to slowly but surely be pushed out of his base. Forced to rebuild somewhere out in the open here. Back to my point of view. Skin out camels, researching heavy camel as well. Heavy camel is not something I go for very often, so it's a technology I kind of forget takes a long time to research, kind of like the Paladin upgrade. Not as bad as the Paladin, but still takes a while. Rainbow 7 was almost successful in delaying me, because you'll see pretty soon what I mean by that. I'm just getting sick and tired of these Arambai raids at this point, so I just release all these camels to try and push these guys back. Getting real tired of your shit, Rainbow 7. Arambai have been pushed back for the time being. Heavy camel coming in. Just gonna be getting the rest of these upgrades. I still... Oh yeah. I built the second blacksmith. This is just something I like to do. It's especially nice if you're doing more than one unit in your army composition. But even if you're not, though, it's nice to be able to grab the attack upgrades and the defensive upgrades at the same time. You're only putting yourself behind another 150 wood. My wood eco was so massive that it was a drop in the bucket, all things considered. So my camels were just going forward, and it was very good timing as well, because I think had I waited about a minute more or so, Umbrella's army would have been dead. As here comes the Cavaliers, soon to be Paladins from Hannibal. Backed up by the Conquistadors. Conquistadors are the kind of unit that fall off in Imperial Age. But he does have most of the upgrades associated with them. He just doesn't have bloodlines. He does have +2 defense, though. The Camel, I was very happy I went for this unit. It was the right call. The only thing I should have done was maybe be a little bit heavier on stone, just so I could get the castle down. So I could get conscription, just so these guys could pump that a bit better, more easily. Now these guys are kind of in a tough spot. They're kind of just hoping to go for their Civ's best units to try and take out Umbrella's army over here, but they didn't count on me coming in with massed heavy camels and ruining their day. Because the camels, in sufficient numbers, will be able to wreck both the Conquistadors and the Cavaliers. Soon to be Paladins, but Paladins will die just the same. On the other side, GPN, huge army of monks right now. Trebs are idle at the moment, but considering how much damage he's done to Rainbow 7's main base, I don't think that really matters all that much. As any fast Imperial strategy is going to be setting your economy behind massively just because you're not going up on more TCs, but look at this. He's just converting Rainbow 7's whole economy. Now he's making Rainbow 7 pay for his economy for him. Though he's basically stopped monk production for the time being. He always tells me about 20 or so monks, and then you can just stop, assuming they don't die. And you can start putting down more TCs and start focusing on economy a little bit more. I think he only stuck to 2 TCs, honestly, but it was all well that ended well. So Rainbow 7 forced to build out here on one of his allies' secondary gold mines. He's going to try and rebuild, making some light cav to buy himself time, I guess, just to try and give him something on the battlefield. Meanwhile, on this side, there's a huge engagement waiting in the wings. Most of Umbrella's army is still alive at the moment. I had this massive army of heavy camels, 65 of them, although not all of them are here. Some of them are still being made. And here we go. This is probably the largest engagement of this game. Paladin upgrade now coming down for Hannibal. It's paladins against heavy camels. It's a unit versus its counter, so it's not going to be very pretty for Hannibal. And it's not going to be pretty for Money in the Bank either, because these bombard cannons are being used to snipe down these conquistadors. That was a huge shot from these bombard cannons. A couple paladins coming around to try and snipe off the bombard cannons. Hannibal will get one, but there's still a couple of bombard cannons alive. That was a very, very bad engagement for them. Yeah, camels were the perfect unit to go for in this case. Yeah, you can see me saying that was fun. Big battles are always fun. So now Hannibal is trying to desperately get up his paladin numbers back. But for the time being, he's not going to have a whole lot of offensive presence. And honestly, neither will Money in the Bank. Some bad micro on Umbrella's part, accidentally sending a couple of his hand cannoneers to their deaths from this castle. These bombard cannons will be able to take down this castle. And I was saying how once this castle goes down, I'm going to rush in these camels to screw up Money in the Bank's, to screw up Red's economy. Camels not the best raiders, but they will get the job done. In the words of MemTV, this is total domination in Rainbow 7's base. GPN just coming in here like he owned the freaking place. Dropping all these barracks. Trying to incorporate something into his army. Pikemen. Italians unfortunately don't get halberdier, so dealing with these Slavic cavaliers is going to be a bit on the tricky side. This isn't the most ideal unit choice for the Slavs, just because they do infantry and siege a whole lot better than they do cavalry. They still do have a decent cavalry line, all things considered. Longe's castle under fire right now. He's going to slowly bleed map control. He did last for a very long time, I think in part thanks to the Slavic economy, but eventually he will die out. And speaking of dying, look at Money in the Bank. He knew he was screwed. He's like, he knows the drill. He's gonna just bail out of there, try and rebuild outside, nearby his opponents. Nearby his ally, I meant. He managed to get to Imperial Age, and he did actually have enough resources left to research the Halberdier upgrade. Halberdiers, nice addition to try and take out the camels, but he just did not have the numbers, because he just didn't have an economy. There's very, very tiny economy left in his base. I left 2 town centers alive on his side. Now we're just rolling out with our camels to try and finish them off. Hannibal running out of gold and forced to switch into skirmishers. Skirmishers will be great against the hand cannons, but they're not going to do so hot against the camels. Sure, they don't have very high pierce armor, but have a lot of HP, and there's a ton of them. Paladin E-skirm, some halberdier backup. They just did not have the numbers. And this is probably the most amount of cavalry I've made in any kind of multiplayer game at all. 67 camels. This is just all mono unit camels. What I should have done was probably forwarding some siege workshops to try and get some siege out, like bombard cannons or siege rams, to try and push this, because I think that our side could have been over a lot sooner had that happened. You can see Hannibal trying to be cute here. Gonna send in a troop of paladins to try and raid us. Thing is, I'm still protected because of the way I set up my wood lines. Hu Hui, on the other hand, was not so lucky. He looks like he overchopped because he decided to take the wood lines, this small wood line over here. There's this concept of defender's advantage. You have all your unit production facilities at home, they're close by. You just pump out camels, and they'll just clean up. Just pumping out camels, and now they're just cleaning up everything that he forwarded over here. These paladins, completely screwed. A couple of paladins making their way into Hu Hui's base, causing some havoc. And I didn't really notice this because I was too busy chasing these, but I cleared these up for him, and he was able to go back to his business. Huey, bit of a newbie flank. Sorry, not flank. He was a bit of a newbie pocket, all things considered, but he had a good army composition. Archers backed up by halberdiers. It's a little curious how he decided to mix in both longbows and arbalests, though. Preferably, you'd want to incorporate one or the other. So yeah, it's just not looking good for these guys. Hannibal forced back. So is Money in the Bank. Longe trying his best to try and push this back, but it's 2v1 at this point, and that is never... it's not in your favor. It hardly ever is, unless you're way better than the two players you're going up against, which was not the case. GPN, as I said, was probably the highest skilled player here. Just building up his economy. He really has everything he needs right now to try and support his pocket to try and take out his opponents. Longe is bleeding gold. Now he's just forced to switch to full Hussars, more or less. Hussars are going to die so fast to these halberdiers. And GG's going to be called very soon. My flank umbrella... I mean, his fast Imperial time wasn't too bad, but his ability to multitask and be able to build up an economy while producing hand cannoneers and bombard cannons was left a little bit to be desired. He had a lot of idle time on his TCs in the mid-game. He was only now starting to build up his economy. Well, I was just one of the guys who just carried everything. Looks like they're calling the GG. They'll slowly all resign. Money in the Bank is the first to resign. Makes sense. He has basically nothing left in his own base. Rainbow 7 and Hannibal follow. Launch takes a little bit more time. He's kind of complaining how GPN was stealing his rams. And he decided to quit afterwards. Huey just kind of thanking me for supporting him. Yeah. That was a nasty Paladin raid that I did not notice until kind of late, but thankfully it didn't do too much damage. Lodge is laughing. His last thing is his famous last words. It's like, "Those are my rams!" And he just resigns. There's not really much you can do at this point. So, this was one of my better this is one of the better team games that I played recently. Most everyone knew what they were doing for the most part. Umbrella was probably, if I had to pinpoint something, maybe Umbrella was a bit of a weak link. But I supported him well enough that most of his army was still alive. And GPN is GPN, just a very solid, high-skilled player. As I said, the highest one here. There's monks and pikes. That was really all he needed to support Huey and his army. Longbows, arbs, just archers in general, and halberdiers. Persians, they're definitely not one of my favorite civilizations. They're pretty low down there, but I find I have a surprisingly high win rate with the Civ, and I'm always happy to have them for pocket, because they're a great pocket civilization. So, that's that. Hope you enjoyed.